so I will repeat. So good morning. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living Tahoe-Truckee. To our Sunday morning celebration service. I'm Rev Pam Brandman, the senior minister here at the center, and it's my joy and pleasure to welcome each of you here this morning, whether you're here in the
It's 10
sanctuary
o'clock and I'm on Zoom at the
online.
Center for Spiritual Living Tahoe.
Make sure that everybody's muted online, please, so they won't be on the recording. Um, and uh, there's always something fun going on with technology and keeping us on our toes. But whoever you are and wherever you are on your spiritual journey, we know that there are many paths to God, and they all lead to oneness and in love. So uh, we're grateful that you have chosen to be here with us this morning. Reminding everyone that our center's purpose is love. Our vision is embracing all and serving with love while awakening to the one. We start our morning with our receptivity statement that you'll see on our screen if you would read along with me. I am here by divine appointment. Something I am about to hear applies to my life. I am open, receptive, and willing to explore the possibilities. Our musicians today is the group Love Eternal. Jahred and Shawna are happy that they have been able to resume traveling in person to the various CSL and Unity centers that they like to perform at on Sunday mornings. And someday they've assured us that they're going to be here with us as well in person, and you'll be able to have their CDs, and I think Shawna makes jewelry, wonderful things. But this morning, you're going to see an invitation, part of their presentation, that's an invitation to pre-order the new album, which is being released in August. So take a look at that if you're interested. But for now, please help me welcome Love Eternal.
Aloha. We're Love Eternal. And this first song is called Breathe Deep.
Is it too soft? I think it's too soft.
Whoa, whoa, I can't seem to find my own way out. And sometimes it feels like this world closing in on me. No breath left to even shout. And yes, I try. Come every day, and that is why I come to thee, abandoning and humbling. You are safe here, my child. You are safe here, my child. You are safe here. You are safe here. You are safe here, my child. For all children, for all children. You are safe here, my child. For our children, for all children. You are safe here, my child.
Overwhelming as they were singing about, and when we go within to that place where God always is, we find that safety and that wholeness. And I'll be talking more about that in our talk, my talk later today. But um, in between, just remember to breathe deep, right? This world can be a little bit crazy, and just breathe deep. Well, this sets us up to move into our meditation for this morning. Our practitioner is Nancy O'Neill, and Nancy and her husband, Tom, are entertaining a house full of guests. That's for several weeks, and they're celebrating lots of birthdays, lots of fun. And so we're grateful that Nancy's made time to be with us here this morning as our practitioner. But know that Nancy is someone who is transforming lives. She maintains that practitioner presence and is always ready to be with her clients and just to hold that high consciousness for our center and for all people. So we're really blessed to have her as a practitioner in our center. Please help me welcome Nancy for our special reading and our invocation.
That's a lot to live up to. Jeez. So, our reading today is from Love and Law. This is Ernest Holmes. And I don't know why they call this the unpublished teachings, even though it's published.
It wasn't published till 2001.
There you go. Some of the problems of life and how we should view things. This is from Ernest Holmes. There is a reason why selfishness and self-centeredness produces things like disease, unhappiness, and trials. And it is not a superficial reason. Unity is the basis of all that there is. There is but one God, but one mind, but one spirit, and but one power. When I embody myself in my thoughts selfishly, I am separating myself from that which I think would be my good. You may think that this is a very subtle thing and could not be the reason for so much trouble. It is the foundation of most of our troubles. I am unconsciously separating myself from my good. It is a fact that the struggle ceases as fast as you can eliminate struggle out of your consciousness. The very struggle after the thing that keeps the thing away from you. If I say in mind, I want a home, but it is very hard to get, can you not see that I am thereby creating conditions under which that thing might possibly be presented to me? In dealing with mind, we are dealing with a neutral, impersonal force that you can't fool. The thing that hinders us are the personal things. In your work, you're dealing with impersonal principle. It will work for you just as quickly as for anybody else. Recognizing that, you dare to trust this principle as an absolute thing. Dare to speak and know it is going to be. Just know it is going to be. Know that in your own thoughts there is a consciousness of love that is radiant and flows out to you all the time. If you do not have this, treat yourself until you get it. Treat yourself until you feel the inner sense of unity with everything and everybody. As an actual experience, see it. Don't try to fool yourself into trying to think you have it. You must know that since there is but one mind, and the greatest impulse of mind is love, you are love yourself. And so, if you'll just join me this morning for an opening prayer. And what great words to think about. You are love yourself. Because that's what you were born to be. That's what we spend so much time letting unfold. The love that is ours, the love that we send out. Because it really is all about love. And so this morning, just in remembering who we are, unified with that God presence that shows up in so many different aspects in our lives, as beauty, as joy, as power, as peace, as love. And so just knowing as we unify with that, we move into our service today. And so with great gratitude for this time together, for this philosophy that we follow, this philosophy of mind, and this philosophy of love, that we are brought to this place at this time, and in gratitude for that. And so I just allow my word to just move out into that expression that the universe is always feeding back to us, always saying yes. So in knowing that, I allow it to be, and we say together, and so it is. So we get to have another little song.
Hello again. So we're very excited to announce that we have a brand new album coming out, releasing August 12th. But you can get a copy earlier, and you can even listen to a few of the tracks now at loveeternal.bandcamp.com. The album's called To Be Human, and we spent a better half of this last year working on it, so we truly hope you give it a chance and go check it out. loveeternal.bandcamp.com. Yes. And this song is off of that album. It's called We Made It. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Been an adventure.
you made it right where you are, and we love you very much, and we'll see you again soon. Aloha.
They've got a second career going for themselves too. They do organic farming setups for people, so they're doing very well, and so. But it comes down to, when we make it, we're creating the society that we live in. We choose what we're doing, and so we have to consider, when we consider living everyday wonder and relationships this month, a fundamental relationship is how human beings gather together to create societies, right? These are the rules that we live by, the agreements that we make with each other, both consciously and unconsciously, set the rules for how people are expected to interact. Now, the Centers for Spiritual Living vision is creating a world that works for everyone. And I don't know about you, but I'm not sure that this is exactly the world that we want to be living in, that we're living in right now. And so how do we move from our present society to that society that we really want to live in? I mean, how do we make that real? A world where people are loved, appreciated, and empowered. All people, all right? Not just us and our dear ones, but all people in the world, wherever they are, right? So we begin with that principle, how do we discover what agreements need to change, right? And what is our part that we need to do to we can engage the society that will nurture and embolden healthier, compassionate, equitable, and loving relationships for all people. So it begins with the principle that you and I create society. Now, people make these laws that we follow, right? And some laws, which we can easily identify, are for the protection of everyone in the society and to support them, right? But there's other laws that are made to protect certain people at the expense of other people, right? They are not considered part of the larger society. They are, whatever reason, they are set at secondary. Some examples are slavery and Jim Crow here in the U.S., right? Apartheid laws in South Africa. The caste system in India, long-standing system. Anti-Semitism in Hitler's world, right? But throughout human history, people have sought to create their own idea of utopia, perhaps a spiritually mature society. In the CSLs, we define that utopia as the world that works for everyone, a society that demonstrates the wonder and magnificence of God in all, through all, and as all people in all things. Right? So, but what about all those other groups that have different ideas of utopia? How do we coexist? The Puritans had strict and restricted rules to follow that followed their spiritual rules. The Taliban in Afghanistan, they've implemented their strict religious philosophy with a conservative social code that almost completely eliminates women from public life, including employment and education. This certainly seems to be in conflict with our beliefs that all people should have equal rights as members of society. How do we reconcile these different points of view of a utopia? Right? Now, in the book Love and Law that Nancy's read from this morning, Ernest Holmes explained that people create the barriers that prevent ourselves and others from experiencing our good. Right? We create humankind's rules of society as opposed to the rules of a single unified society coming from that divine. That in divine intention, we're all one. There is absolutely no separation. Each person is an individualized expression of the God, and so there can't be this conflict. It's just like all of the colors of the rainbow are part of that one rainbow. You need every color to have a complete rainbow. Sometimes we have a double rainbow, right? And so it's it all needs to come together. And so when we go to that level of oneness, what we're talking about of knowing that we are love itself, there is that point of understanding from which everything else is expressed. Now, let me go over that reading again from Ernest Holmes. Unity is the basis of all there is. There is but one God, but one mind, but one Spirit, and but one power. When I embody myself and my thoughts selfishly, I am separating myself from that which I think would be my good. You may think this is a very subtle thing and could not be the reason for so much trouble. It is the foundation of most of our troubles. I am unconsciously separating myself from my good. Holmes suggested that by creating our entire lives around our own selfish desires, our own little blinders of what we think is important, we take away perhaps someone else's good. Even worse, we create trouble by separating ourselves from even greater possibilities that we can't even see because, we've just got this little area that we're looking at. But the world is infinite, right? And we're part of this infinite world, the universe. We believe that we can easily see how women are prevented from experiencing their full potential by the Taliban. And we can also see how Putin, he's focusing on what he thinks he's doing the right thing. He wants access for Russia to that Black Sea for shipping and for grain and the industrial capabilities of Ukraine. He's following that old way of might makes right. And so many eons, centuries, that this is the way the world happened. But there's a new way. We live together as mutually independent society. There's rules of law of engagement. We respect the borders of other countries, and there's a right to self-determination. And how do you have all of these things that he wanted from Ukraine? It's called trade. It's called working with your neighbors. It's called being mutually interdependent and supportive, right? That synergy of working together. 1 and 1 is more than 2. So there's also the time of our own shortcomings. We think we know everything, but I don't think there's any one of us that's so perfect, except a few of the Jesus and a few others, that knows everything and that we get it exactly right. That we're always evolving, and that's part of what we're here to do is to see what if our own rules don't match the vision of how we would like the world to be. It takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable, to see where we could accept our own missteps and change them and evolve and grow. But it also calls us to grow to a higher level, to go beyond. I know when my children were young, I would do things for them, and I would go beyond my comfort zone for them that I wouldn't do for myself. And so it called me to grow. And so these situations are like that as well. We need to see our own blind spots where we're being selfish instead of living from oneness. In our own society here, the January 6th committee is investigating whether the former president and his followers were following the American society rule of law, right, and the peaceful transition of power in accordance with the vote of the people. That's been there since for 250 years since our country began. And what is the truth? And what are the lies and manipulation? Trying to dig deep and find out what is that spiritual truth. Where do all of this polarization and differences of opinion that blind us to our own shortcomings come from? And how do we move beyond that? Now, for years, and possibly since humans first developed communication, there have been complaints and commentaries about what is wrong with the world. The first recorded complaints, they're written down, about youth date back about 2,500 years ago to Aristotle and Socrates. Right? Many people are constantly complaining about what's wrong with the government, the churches, or those churches, the country or that country, the politicians, the weather, our jobs, the economy, our spouses, children, etc. I mean, it can be, if you just get stuck in those complaints and you get on social media, and they're very happy to multiply your complaints with the AI structure that just feeds back to you exactly what you think, and it can be very depressing, right? And there's so many of the millennials and Gen X's are just depressed because how can life ever get better? how could I ever afford a house? How could I ever get a job that would allow me to feed my family and not have to work 2 or 3 jobs? It's the energy of those complaints, however, has never made anything better, right? They suck up our energy, and they get us to focus on what's wrong. And one thing we know in science of mind is that what we focus on, we get more of. Is that cup half full or half empty? So if we want to see all the problems, we can surely find some more. What we need to do is change to the positive. Krishnamurti said, "It's no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society." So it's not just about making it okay to have all those things that we're complaining about. That's not what I'm saying at all. Instead, we have to focus on what we want and connect our consciousness as one with Spirit and listen to that divine guidance from within regarding what is the highest and the best outcome for a situation. Setting our intention as we're led to by Spirit, and then let go and let God manifest that intention. This happens automatically as we believe, because this part of God works like a law, as it's done unto us as we believe. And we also need to treat with our feet. Now, there's a lot of systems that keep society in place. And we talk about, it's said that the old guard is what keeps us in place, right? We can blame it on those old people that have been around forever. And when they die off, things like racism, genocide, homophobia, terrorism, they will all just vanish, But that old guard isn't certain people. The old guard, in fact, is the systems that the people have put in place, and those systems, if left unchallenged, continue to dictate how any given society operates. It's also that race consciousness that if we just accept what society has always done, that's what it is. That's what we experience. So we need to get off that merry-go-round and change things. Society is an agreement of the people, and it's when those agreements limit our view of what is and is not possible. So we have to change those agreements if we're going to move beyond it. It's a paradigm shift. So, but let's think about this. Is really a difficult thing to do if we try and do it just at the level of human experience. Remember, everybody loves the show Game of Thrones, and power was transferred by military might or by assassination. You just won. That's the way it was done. You didn't have a vote. You didn't like the way things were being done. You killed off the king or the queen, and or you had them marry somebody that would take them off to wherever, right? And so today we in our this century, we've had autocrats. They still want to rule by military might, silence their opponents, right? One community that's particularly affected is the LGBTQ community around the world. There's many places where there's societal norms that still perpetuate hatred and violence. Sometimes it's punishable by death or prison to simply be LGBTQ and be out. And even if they don't live in those countries, knowing that people like you are in that peril affects everyone, right? It affects me to know that there are people, just because of who they are, cannot live a life safely, right? So we come back to the need for a paradigm shift. Buckminster Fuller knew this well. He said, "You never change things by fighting the existing reality," right? What resists persists. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. Obsolete. In physics, when you have the electron going around the nucleus, and it goes around at a certain speed, all right? And when you put enough energy in it and it speeds up so fast and it's going around and around, well, what happens is that it goes to a bigger orbit. So then it can go slower but cover more distance with the same energy. So it's the same thing. That's a paradigm shift, and the same thing can happen in our society. And so it's only when dedicated people see a vision of change and work towards it and effective and beneficial changes that they've actually occurred. If we're going to change society, then we have to begin to discuss, envision, and become the beloved, wonderful society, a world that works for everyone. John Lennon said it well. He said, if everyone demanded peace instead of another television set, then there'd be peace. Right? We have to look at what are the things that we value? What do we really want to value that's in line with our values? In the Science of Mind textbook, Ernest Holmes said, man comes into this life subjective to the race consciousness and to his own environment. He unfolds his own personality and begins to create new subjective thought. And this is how we have evolution, how that divine intention, that divine bliss works through us to express itself in the world. And so it's to a higher and higher level that the divine can express itself in the world. But it's only through us and as us. It doesn't mean that we're going to do a spiritual bypass and just ignore these worldly conditions. It does mean that we will shift from worrying about the condition to working towards manifesting the societies that we do want to experience instead. This affects our relationships with each other and with those we might never meet that are affected by the laws and the policies that are in place and our prayers, right? Because prayer ripples out through the world. Ernest Holmes said that if God can work for us only by working through us, then this statement of Jesus stands true and is really a statement of the law of cause and effect. We cannot afford to hold personal animosities or enmities against the world or individual members of society. All such thoughts are outside the law and cannot be taken into the heavenly consciousness. Love alone can beget love. That's a pretty challenging statement. There are some people that are pretty difficult to love, right? But they're part of God. And in their heart of hearts, God is still there. That small flame is within them. And so there's learning to focus on that. And regardless of what the outer appearance is to know at that level, at my heart to their heart, we are part of that one. And stay there and hold that knowingness steady. Know that as I am love, they are love. Every act is either an act of love or a call for love. Right? Love is what empowers all of us to be alive. And so we've made as a society these endeavors to bring about this world. So one of them has been the United Nations, right? And it's not perfect, but it has been an experiment of how we can get all of these, 183 countries in the world, whatever the number is now, to come together and to some kind of consensus about how we could, how the world could work together. But it only has the power that we give it, right? And when some of the parties withhold, it slows down the whole process. We also have to release our fear and accept an acceptance of the old systems. We have to let go of what was, and that's pretty scary if we don't know what it's going to be. We're stepping out in faith. But we want to live by these new rules of engagement, and it's an experiment. So it's not going to always go perfectly because we learn with each step. I know when you're learning to drive a car, when you work with your teen when they're learning to drive a car, it's a little scary the first few times, but they get it, and that's why they have another driver in the car because but it's something we learn. And so you learn it, you do everything, you have to think about everything. Okay, I'm going to turn right. Okay, I'm going to turn the blinker on. So you've already done the turn by the time you get through thinking. But after a short while, it's automatic. And you totally forget that you were driving and whatever you were thinking about instead. So but all of this is about, it's a paradigm shift. And so when we get scared and we get nervous, we want to step back into that old paradigm of the way things were. We have to say, nope, nope, okay, go within, breathe deep, and allow ourselves to align with Spirit, and then step out. And the world looks different when we come from oneness than when we come from just feeling that we're all alone. Right? We are part of the one life that is all of life. That's pretty amazing. Right? So it requires listening to that divine guidance and a willingness to see also how we've been contributing to the problem and letting go of those behaviors and what has been holding us back individually. And it takes all of us to do that in order to have that collective shift of the society. As in the U.S. elections, it's one of the things where people are standing up. All the craziness that's gone on in the last few years, people are standing up for the rule of law in the elections, and they're standing up for the peaceful transfer of power. And it's when people stand together collectively, calmly and solidly, and that's what gives us our strength. And it's not resorting, going back to fighting with swords and killing and so forth, but it's a matter, this is where we stand. And having faith in that and having it come through over time. We settle our differences at the ballot box. And so that is what we stand for. That's what we had a revolution about, and that's where we are. Now, in the this also takes our action at the personal level in our own lives about raising the consciousness of love. It's not just about the whole big world, but it's about the society of our family and our relationships at work and in our own little world, our everyday world, everyday wonder. And so from the book, again, Love and Law, Ernest Holmes says, you are dealing with an impersonal principle. It will work for you just as quickly as for anyone else. All right? No one else is more special than you. You have that same power. You have that same contact with Spirit that is your source. Recognizing that, you can dare to trust this principle as an absolute thing. You can stand on it. Dare to speak and to know what you say is going to be. It's the law, it's the way law works. Know that in your own thought there is that consciousness of love that is radiant and flows out to you and from you all the time. And that's that divine love that is, flowing through us and out into the world, and it circles back, blessed and multiplied. Now, if you don't have the consciousness, is what Ernest Holmes suggests, treat yourself until you get it. Treat until you feel that inner sense of unity with everything and everyone. Now, treat means using the what we call affirmative prayer. And so we say that when we are coming from this consciousness of oneness, we do that through meditation and just experiencing that we are one with God, that there is no separation. Then we use from that consciousness of oneness, then we speak our word. We do a prayer. It's not a pleading with God because we're a part of God, but it's stating, making choices about what's going to happen. And, it's like there's a fire hose that's coming out, and it's just flowing at full speed, and so we have to direct it where we want it to go. And if we focus it over here on the problems, we're going to feed the problems. But if we focus it over here on what we want, that's what we're going to get. So it's always manifesting. We get to choose what it's going to manifest. So and then also another thing is that, let's say we don't know what we want. That's always a catch that can stop many of us. Well, then treat for clarity. Treat to know. Ask Spirit for answers. And you will find quite amazingly that they come. And it may not be what you expect because it's coming from the oneness rather than our logical minds that are limited by what we've already known and experienced, right? Ernest Holmes has a great example about why we should trust spiritual mind treatment and prayer. So he says, let's say that you come to a table And laid out on the table, there's a whole bunch of buttons that are green and red and blue. And they're all mixed up. And you say, well, I want these buttons to be sorted out by color. So what do? You sit down and you put the red ones here and the blue ones here and the green ones over there. And pretty soon, it's all sorted out. One by one by one. All right? So it's the same way with treatment. It's an orderly process. When, we call it, there's the 5 steps of spiritual mind treatment, and you can learn about how to do that in some of our classes. But basically, it's that when we go through these steps, when we know that God is all there is, that we're one with God, we speak our truth about what the divine intention is, give gratitude for it, and then release it to God to let it be, to manifest it. It happens. It is a process. It's a scientific process. And so it's done unto you as you believe. It's just as orderly as sorting those buttons. It's just as sure. So how do we sort the truth from the false beliefs? That is, how we do it one by one. So when we treat until we have a demonstration, until it is actually manifest, and but also when you're praying about it, there comes a time when you know that this is the truth. It's not I, but the Father within that doeth the work, as Jesus put it. We know that we are working in harmony, co-creating with Spirit. It also, but then the other part of it is once we know that it's unfolding, we have to treat and move our feet. All right? Spirit can only do for us what it can do through us. Right? We have to be willing to do our part. If somebody's throwing you a ball, you have to catch it. Right? We have to do our part. And if you're going to, then we send it on to the next person. Right? The one section from the reading that I really liked this morning was talking about struggle cease as fast as you eliminate struggle out of your consciousness. Right? So he used the example that if you're going to you want a new home, but you think, oh, but it's so hard to get a home and they're so expensive, I can't find one. Da 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 da. Well, that's exactly what you're going to get. That's the experience that you're going to find. But if you say, oh, I'm ready for that perfect home, I'm ready, it's ready for me, we're finding each other, and it happens. So it's like when Michael and I moved here, we were clear that we wanted to buy a home here, and so we arrived April 1st in 2019, and by October 19th we were in our perfect home, and it had waited for us for a year and a half on the market. So the sellers were really happy that we showed up finally to get our house. But it all works together. There was a wonderful Eugene Holden is a practitioner, and he was with the Minister of Prayer for many years at the Centers for Spiritual Living, and he has every month in the magazine. He has an article with affirmations about different topics, and the one that he had this month on surrender just really struck me, the right words at the right time. And he said, surrender. Living everyday wonder means surrendering to all the wonderful things in life. We also surrender all the things that no longer serve us. Surrender to the joy that is you. And the affirmation, I surrender to my gifts and talents. I surrender to being loved. I surrender to all the good life has to offer. I surrender. In the past, I'd always thought of surrender as something of giving up myself and in kind of a downward movement. You're going to, I give up kind of surrender, with the white flag and all that kind of stuff. Well, this is a different idea. This is about surrendering to being lifting up. It's like a child being lifted up by their parent, and all those good things, memories we have of riding around on our dad's shoulders or just being cuddled in our mother's arms, right? And so when I was on vacation, I had a lot of time to think, as one of the great purposes of vacation, and so in the last few years we've done this great vision about all the things that we want to do for our center, And and there was so much alignment within our congregation about all the things that we saw and activities going on in the center, and just spiritual growth and social good times, and people of all ages here in the center. Just a great place to be. And it hasn't shown up exactly yet, right? And it gets frustrating, and I said, well, okay, it's because of COVID. And whatever reason we can come up with, but it's just, when after the bottom line was, was that it's just frustrating, and could be depressing if you really think about it. And am I the right person here? What are we doing wrong? It's so I was feeling all of this. And so when I came back to work the first morning after vacation, I was thinking about all of this and doing my meditation time, and I read this statement about surrender. Surrendering to all of the wonderful things in life, and surrendering all of the things that no longer serve us. And all my worry was definitely something that was no longer serving me. And so I surrendered, and I decided to detach from whatever things were looking like on the outside, because I knew that this vision was a gift of spirit. And so when I became detached, it no longer really mattered exactly what was happening and when, but spirit could bring the gifts. Well, from that moment, all kinds of serendipitous things have been happening. The first thing I did after that meditation session is I went to listen to the voice messages that had come in while we were gone. And there was a message from Anton Miserak, who is a great New Thought musician. He and his wife, Larry Berryhill, I think they've been here before. And I think their home center is in, let's see, what do you call it? Redlands. And but they perform in a lot of different places around the world. I heard him for the first time when I was in Ventura, in probably about 2005 or 6 or something like that. He was performing with Michael Mandrell, and so I just loved his music. And so here he was, and what he was saying is that, well, my nephew's having a wedding on September 28th, and so we would like to come and be your music on that Sunday for your center. It's like, yes, this is great. And so I called him back right away, and he says, well, we'd also like to be your speaker. I said, well, that's the Sunday that Dr. Tupper is going to be here. So that one, he said, I love Lloyd Tupper. We perform at Golden Gate CSL 2 or 3 times a year, so I know him very well. And so I said, well, we only pay $100 for our musicians. Well, that would be fine. We would like to have someone to open a room in their home for us to stay for one night, preferably 2, so they can be here for the wedding. And could we put a concert on for you on Saturday afternoon or evening? And so it's like, yes, this is. It's just. So those are the kind of wonderful synchronicities that have been unfolding, right? Our idea of having music concerts. Here's one just dropping into our laps, right? And so other things have happened, connections with people. A lady from Arkansas called me about, what do I need to do to become a practitioner again? I was like, okay. But so it is unfolding in its perfect timing with the right people, and they are being attracted to us because of the consciousness of who we are, of standing firm in that consciousness of wholeness and of love, of spiritual transformation, of being a center for spirit to thrive in our community and on this planet. So this week, as you interact with the world, pause periodically and look out at those societal norms that, with yours and those around you, that you've agreed to follow, and look at them through the lens of a world that works for everyone. Notice things, and as you notice things in your world that are not demonstrating that vision, ask, not just complaining, but what can I do to be an ambassador of this society that works for everyone, right? How can I be someone who is part of creating that world? And then once you have your answer, do it. Do it. Be courageous. And if you need some courage, get prayed up, because you are spirit stepping out. In your life, how do we treat each other in our families? How do we interact with people who are different from us? Right? Are we afraid of speaking out or speaking up when something happens that we don't think should be happening? How do we move beyond thinking of others as them and us, and assuming that we have nothing in common or of interest to each other? We live together on this planet as part of the one. And if we were to create a world that works for everyone, what would that look like? How wonderful would that be? There's a woman named Mamie Webb Bledsoe that I'd like to tell you about. Mamie was born in 1957 in Durham, North Carolina, and she grew up in the West End, a proud community of African Americans that's located between downtown and Duke University, which is the largest employer in Durham. Now, during the 90s, Durham's tobacco and textile industries were in decline. And so there's many residents lost their jobs, community morale was very low, the quality of life was declining, crime was increasing. It wasn't a great place to live. Meanwhile, Duke University was on the ascent and beginning to grow rapidly. Many highly educated, mostly white individuals were moving to town to teach at the university or be on their boards. The local residents, who were the African Americans primarily, they filled the lower level jobs. So there was this disparity between the two groups. Inequalities and divisions between Duke University and the local residents just getting greater and greater. So in the year 2000, Duke University restructured its Office of Community Affairs to focus on partnering with the neighborhoods closest to the university and the medical center. So Mame Webb Bledsoe, she joined the Duke Durham Neighborhood Partnership staff as a trained facilitator in citizen organizing, and then began the Southwest Durham Quality of Life Project, right? And she's still doing that to this day. So after 2 years of listening sessions, not action, but listening sessions between the university and the Durham neighborhood residents from Mamie's childhood neighborhood, the university and the residents became partners to address the issues of mutual interest. And there were a lot of things. They're expanding affordable housing, investing in commercial development in the areas that are economically declining, preserving the area's history and culture. They have some new historical designations and festivals, improving the neighborhood security and reducing crime, providing access to high-quality health care, focusing on neighborhood leadership so that the people could actually speak up and knew how to speak up for what they wanted, rather than just having to accept whatever came their way, right? Duke students have been tutoring Durham school students for more than 20 years as a part of the America Reads, America Counts program, right? That's a great interaction between the university and the committee and the community. And to demonstrate its commitment to really breaking down the barriers and building bridges with that local Durham community, the university actually tore down some walls that were surrounding the university and kind of protecting it from the community around. And so now there's much more of a flow of interaction, and people visit the university for different events and activities and conversations. It's getting to the healthcare on the campus. It's a mutually beneficial relationship now, rather than a self-absorbed institution for Duke University. Now, Mame Webb Bledsoe, her innovative work in the community organizing was successful because she focused on building and strengthening relationships over time. That was her primary method. She said, "A relationship is at the heart of my work. I do not get ahead of a group's own desires. I encourage them to see the value in collectively solving their problems and to use their compassionate nature to listen for the common interest." And that's her on the right, you'll see with one of her partnership participants. So it's that each party in those negotiations was empowered to learn to listen, to learn to understand the needs of other people. Rather than when you have a piece of pie, it's not just cutting that pie in half and who gets the biggest half or what have you, but it's when you work together, you can grow the pie so everybody has more. Right? It's an amazing part of negotiations. And so during this roller coaster time when Duke University was rapidly expanding and impacting really its neighborhood nearby, Mamie has guided the partners through the process of completing numerous projects together. And together, those partners have created a mutually beneficial society. So what can you do to create a world that works for everyone? Stephen Covey recommends that we seek first to understand, then to be understood. Begin in your own home. Practice listening to all points of view and truly understand what is important for each person before making a joint decision. Right? This applies when you're doing big questions like moving or renovating the house, And it's also, we can practice on the little questions like, what movie are we going to watch tonight? Or where will we spend our next vacation? Right? We can also reach out to expand our consciousness by exploring our own understanding and beliefs about society. Are there people in our society that are denied access to the wonders of society that we take for granted? We want to go to the store and grocery store and buy what we want. There's people that can't. Right? When you walk in a store, do the clerks assume that you're a good potential customer, or do they see you as a potential problem to be wary of? Have you ever known a transgender person? Do you understand their needs for equal rights and equality? What pronoun do you call them by, right? Start at the basics. Do you see your own unconscious biases against people of other races, right? To go beyond this, take time to watch a documentary, a TV show, or maybe a movie, or read a book that portrays how people who are different than you think, feel, and live in the world. Expand your understanding. When Michael and I were in Europe, we went to a museum which was called the Queer Eye, Queer Gaze of, it was about art and looking at how transgender LGBTQ was portrayed in art going back for centuries, but we really never noticed it. But it's there when you point it out, right? So it really expanded our minds. If we want to create a world that works for everyone, we can begin by expanding our own consciousness of love and acceptance, of opening our hearts to include all people as a part of the unity and as a part of ourselves. It comes back to being still and know that I am God, that God is within us, through us, and as us, and it is that love that heals us, empowers us, and all of the society we build together. Let's take this to prayer. And so we begin at the beginning, the one God that is the source of all, the source of all love, of life itself. There is but one mind. The greatest impulse of that mind is love. And therefore, we are love ourselves because we are made of God's stuff. And as we allow that love to fill our consciousness, we find ourselves letting go of things that we have been hanging on to that no longer serve us. And we find ourselves being lifted up, stepping up to a higher level of functioning, to actually being part of creating that world that works for everyone, of creating that society where all people are loved and supported, just as they are. And it feels so good to be free, to be empowered, to be loved to the core of our being, and to share that love with the world. We see that world empowered by love. And we call it forth. We see the world transformed. And we let go and let God. And we do our part as we are called to act. We take the time to listen and to understand and listen with our hearts. And know that all is God. All is God, good. And all is love. And we let that universal mind guide us with clarity to know what is ours to do and how to do it. To work together with other people that are called to actions that are similar to ours. To work together in synergy. To manifest that world that works for everyone. We see it manifesting in our relationships with our loved ones and our family. And things that we had felt were so stuck and held back. As we let go and let God be the truth of our being, of our experience, we find ourselves letting go. We find our fears dissolving, replaced by a faith that is built on that divine love. We don't need that fear anymore because there is such strength of standing tall in spirit, as spirit, expressing itself in the world. And we let go and we let it, God, manifest the wholeness and love and light in the world. And it unfolds perfectly. Yes, we do our part to support it, but it is very clear that it is a power greater than us. It is the power, one power in the universe that is manifesting all of this in the world. And it is good. It happens in our family, and our friendships, and our community here at the Center for Spiritual Living Tahoe. All of the wonderful things that are unfolding so synergistically as we see new people joining us, people that are here growing and sharing in this wonderful synergy of being together, of spiritual transformation, of experiencing love and acceptance and joy. We see it transforming the world, one relationship at a time, until it spreads out into the world, everywhere present. For that is where God is, everywhere present. And so that transformation occurs from millions and billions of centers of love and light of each person in the world. We know that all people are blessed, loved, and accepted just as they are. There is a healing of bodies, minds, and spirit. We rejoice and give thanks for this paradigm shift. We give thanks that God is present everywhere, that life is good, that life is love, all is well. And so with deep gratitude, I release these words, knowing that it is already done, and even greater is unfolding. And together we say, and so it is. All right. So we have a song, another song by Love Eternal, that's about divine right life, knowing what it is. be able to watch it. It's a wonder. We've seen it before, but it's a wonderful video about divine right life and just being still and that knowingness and traveling the pathway of life, and knowing that we're traveling it together with Spirit. So, well, this brings us to our prosperity time, and at CSL Tahoe-Truckee we know that God is our infinite source for our center and for each of us as individuals. So your donations to the center support us and all of the activities that we do. Whether you're putting it in the basket or mailing us a check, doing it with the bank's bill pay, whatever happens, but it all works together because our spiritual community is excited about being a part of building this world that works for everyone. And this is part of the way that donating your time, talent, and treasure, that you can be a part of that transformation. So thank you. If you would hold your offering over your heart, and we'll repeat our prosperity affirmation together. I gratefully and joyfully share my offering, which flows from God, my infinite source. My gift blesses this center and all who are guided, healed, and empowered by its activities. All I share with life returns to me blessed and multiplied.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I am. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful.
I am so blessed. And so we are grateful for all of these blessings that have been so generously shared, knowing that it is the circulation of the divine love and prosperity that is here with us, through us, and as these donations here today. Thank you, Father, Mother, God. And so it is, and so we let it be. Okay. All right. So we want to welcome all of our friends that are visiting here today. We have Julie that's visiting us here from CSL Santa Rosa. So welcome on your vacation. And your mother, and your name is Carol. And I know you've been here before. So that was good to see you, Carol. And that's, part of what happens in the summer in Tahoe. So we love having our guests. And make sure that you sign our guest book if you're going to be here. I have some thank yous I want to have. We have our, for Zoom hosting this morning, we have Diana Misitz, who has helped put together our slides as well this morning. Michael Brandman's helping with the camera and monitoring. Nancy O'Neill, not only practitioner, but she was our hospitality lead today. And see, what was the other thing I was supposed to think? There was one more. Big thing. Oh my. Well, whatever it is, thank you for being here. And we are recruiting for a new office administrator. So Savannah App has resigned. She's moving on to something new. And so so if you know someone, that would be great. We are knowing that the perfect person is now ready to join us. So, okay. Let's see, all of us, and right after service, please stay for hospitality, either here in the hospitality room if you're in the sanctuary, or online. You can stay and chat with each other. And also, all of these announcements are on our website and in the newsletter, so you can check it out, the website at tahoecsl.org. Next week, our Sunday service, June 24th, will be in person and on Zoom. I will be speaking on We Are Star Stuff. Colleen Akiko will be providing the music, and Carol Delbon is our practitioner. The e-bikes group, this group is really having a great time together this summer. And so this week, June 19th, they are going to meet at 11 a.m. in Truckee at the parking lot across from the Full Belly Deli. And you can Google that if you want to know where it is. And the riders will travel to Gray's Crossing at Prosser Lake for a picnic lunch. So that should be a wonderful morning. There's a class that we have been planning. Meditation is More Than You Think. This is a great class, 8-week class. It goes through 8 different ways of meditating, so you can try them out and see which one really works for you and incorporate them into your own spiritual practice. But we haven't had many people sign up yet. There's a few people that told me that I want to take this class, but I'm going to be on vacation. Can you do it in the fall instead? So I wanted to take a poll this morning and find out how many people are interested in taking the class. Michael's going to count the people that are online, and so because it can be an online class as well. So how many people are interested in taking it this summer? And then how about waiting till the fall? Would you rather wait till the fall? Okay. Yeah. So and Michael, what's the online? Nothing yet. Okay. All right. So it looks like we'll be delaying that class until the fall. So if you come here on Tuesday, you will find that we're waiting. So anyway, but do sign up for that class for the fall. It's a wonderful class, and really you'd be surprised at trying out these different methods. Will really kind of reinvigorate your spiritual practice, perhaps. All right. Okay. Oh, this is where the thank you was on Adopt a Highway. So our next cleanup is on July 23rd, and if we would love to have you join us, this is a great time. As we have about 2 miles of highway that we clean up, and it takes usually about 2 hours, 3 at the most, if there's really a lot of trash. From hour and a half. Okay, and but you do, if you've never done it before, you do need to do the online training. Nancy O'Neill can give you the link for that. And the other good news is that this year Caltrans is paying us $250 each time we go out and do that. And our first check arrived. Yay! So thank you, Caltrans, and thank you to the people that participated in that cleanup. All right. And our next, in August 14th, we're going to have a drum circle here out in the back. And Jim Eaglesmith will be leading it, so I'll be participating. Rabbi Ivan Yakar from the North Tahoe Hebrew Temple will be joining us. We've got a Washoe tribal elder, and so we'll be drumming, and so you can bring your own drums, and we'll have a potluck right after after service, and then move out to the back for the drum circle. So it should be a great time, and we're hoping all of our neighbors will hear us and join us, right? Well, Jim has some extra drums too, so. And if you do have an extra drum, then go ahead and bring that too for others. But we're going to be blessing our center and the land that it's located on. Donna Axon is teaching a class starting August 19th called Bible Mystery and Bible Meaning. This is a great class based on Troward's book, so you can sign up for that. Our annual barbecue this year is going to be at the North Tahoe Regional Park in Tahoe Vista on August 21st, so save that date. And our annual Ananda Expanding Light Retreat is going to be September 23rd through 25th. Gary Lynn Floyd is our musician and facilitator. And Ananda has asked us they want our initial deposit to make sure that we hold that time. So we need a few more people to put in their $200 deposit, and we can send that off to Ananda and keep things moving forward. We also have our ongoing weekly classes. We've got Chris Worcester's Tai Chi classes online on Thursdays at 3:30. Meditation, energization at 4:30. Meditation at 5. That's with Mary McEnany. And Friday Course of Love with Sue Pipel. All drop-in classes. All right. We have our children's affirmation. So we have our children. We've had teen camp was a great success, and we have to congratulate Luna Hack because she was elected to the teen council for CSL. So hooray! And so we'll have the teens come give us a report on their great experience that they had. Okay, but we're blessing our children now. So we see you, we hear you, we love you. You are a gift from God. All right. So there's lots going on to support you. Our practitioners are here. Nancy O'Neill, practitioner of the day. Michael Brandman. Let's see, I'm here as a practitioner in the center. Carol Delbon is online, and Brenda as well at Heldorn. So, no, she's retired now. She's retired. She still has the consciousness, but she's taking some time for herself and her family. So, but anyway, we're going to have our join us for hospitality afterwards, where we're going to join in a circle for affirmation and closing song. If you would read along with me. I am a powerful catalyst of love within society.
You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice, a spirit on earth, and who you are and all you do is a blessing to the world. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are and all you do is a blessing to the world.
Thank you all.
Hi, Brian and Linda.